Welcome to yet another episode of KISKA brand BAJEGA. Music has always been an important part of the human narrative, right from mythology to culture to folklore to advertisements. In the advertising world, they are fondly called as jingles. India got its first commercial radio in 1967, when Vividh Bharati started airing commercials, and since then we've never looked back. Television bottomed the visual format, but jingles continued to weave their charm. Amul was probably one of the first to milk this, with an advertisement that portrays a gripping story in one song. Until Date sings to the taste of India. An entire generation grew up with Hema, Rekha, Jaya and Sushma. And Vico very effectively drilled in that it is without any doubt a turmeric Ayurvedic cream with a wrap of benefit. Cola brands ka dil always mange more. And we saw many multi-starrer ads being rolled out over the years, with Pepsi getting bubbly with its Youngistan and Coke's Thanda matlab Coca-Cola. Telecom companies have used their fair share of jingles, right from A.R. Rahman's iconic Airtel tune to Vodafone's You and I, and more recently Jio's Dhan Dhana Dhan. Jingles at times don't even need to make sense, do they? As I can only refer to Ooh La La Leo, and you know which brand I'm talking to. Nescafe has engineered their mogo on the lines of the sensory marketing route, and their iconic tune itself will inspire many people to start their day with a cup of coffee. Mozart, at the age of 17 in 1773, little knew that his composition will be known as the Titan tune for an entire subcontinent. Hum Mein Hai Hero inspired us all, and Nerolac got us humming along with a multitude of brands who continue to do so. Music is not just a great narrative, it transcends language as well. The only other genre that can have this badge on the shoulder is humor, as is well portrayed with the likes of Charlie Chaplin and Mr. Bean. At Brand Adda today, we've got an exceptional lineup to get us into an entertaining and educating discussion on the business of humor. Over to my colleague Ronak.
I was once told that there are three routes that work the best when it comes to good marketable content in India. First is emotional, second humor, and third is anything to do with a dog or a baby in it. While it is easier to make someone cry, and a pug in a video gets just the right reaction, the toughest to crack is humor. Today with me on Brand Adda, I've got a panel who have made this tough job look like child's play. Introducing the panel, we've got Sameer Pittalwala, founder and CEO of Culture Machine, Cyrus Broacha, the man who redefined comedy in the country and continues to do so.
Stop crying, stop.
Next up, we've got Rahul Subramaniam. Started out as an MBA, decided to follow his passion. Today is one of the most renowned stand-up comedians in the country. Mr. Atul Khatri, CEO of an IT firm who decided to pursue his passion. Today, a renowned stand-up comedian. We've got Mr. Bazmee. He's not only an acclaimed film director who has been tickling our funny bones for 3 decades, but has been giving us multiple blockbuster hits while doing so. And last but not the least, Mr. Suresh Menon. He's a director, actor, comedian, television and radio personality, and also a CEO. So a question out for all of you all is, how has the comedy landscape evolved over the years? So, anyone?
So before there was what, Johnny Lever and not too many, the comedy tracks will tell us, which was one style, I think. Now then the Suresh Menon was the next generation. And then our Rahul and me generation came much later.
Honestly, before me and Broacha open our mouth, he should be answering this question. I think he has seen it all.
Yeah,
so I think we'll put that question to Anis bhai.
Yeah, I feel change तो बहुत हुआ है, बहुत evolve हुआ है. And I remember जब मैं एक फिल्म लिख रहा था in 90s, गोविंदा की आंखें, तो उस टाइम ये भी लोग मतलब गोविंदा was के यार इसका कॉमेडी फिल्मों का एक सैचुरेशन पॉइंट होता है बिजनेस का भी, ये कितनी बड़ी चलेगी. बट उस टाइम पे आई फील यार इफ द फिल्म इज गुड, उतनी बड़ी हिट कॉमेडीज नहीं होती थी. बट आई वॉज ऑलवेज, मुझे ऐसा फील होता था कि यार हर इंसान दुनिया में हंसना चाहता है. कोई भी इंसान मैंने आज तक नहीं देखा जो ये कहता है कि मुझे हंसना नहीं है. तो मुझे हमेशा लगता था कि इफ द फिल्म इज गुड एंड राइटिंग इज गुड, हाँ, लेकिन अब जो है थोड़ी और स्मार्ट राइटिंग चाहिए. क्या है उस टाइम पे ऑडियंस भी थोड़ी जो है ना, आई थिंक इनोसेंस थी, उसमें इनोसेंट था. अभी जो है बहुत एजुकेटेड ऑडियंस है. आज एक पॉइंट पे आपको देख सकते हैं इनको. तो आज मुझे लगता है कि कॉमेडी फिल्म बनाना जो है पहले से ज़्यादा मुश्किल हो गया है.
ऑल्सो एडिंग टू व्हाट ही सेड इज दैट आजकल क्या हो गया कि ऑन द फोन पे व्हाट्सएप, the kind of jokes which you're getting on WhatsApp per minute, per second. So as a comedian, when we also go on stage, suppose like India-Pakistan match happened, a lot of jokes came up on that. When I go on stage and talk about India-Pakistan match, my jokes have to rise above that.
Right, absolutely. What do you think, Rahul?
I think the audience, once you start knowing a certain level of jokes, the audience can second guess what you're trying to say.
Right.
And they don't like it when they can second guess it. So you have to surprise them. So at every point of time, you have to come up with jokes which first of all are funny. Secondly, the audience cannot guess or predict.
Right.
And with each passing year, I think the audience is going to only get smarter. But having said that, I think it's evolving, and Indian comedy is also evolving. If you look at Bollywood also, if you look at stand-up comedy, or if you look at TV programs, over the period of we are getting much better.
Yeah, so Sameer.
First of all, fundamental thing is television had INB guidelines on comedy, which meant that, content like his as well as others would always push the boundaries, but it never really went beyond that because regulations didn't allow that's the reason we never had a Comedy Central. The first batch of people were just pushing boundaries because they got the chance to, since they never had the opportunity, number one, to be on TV. And even if they did, it would all be fairly muted. So now what's happening, I think, is every comedian have to have a community when he puts up a video or Atul puts up a video, that as they age, because that's human, there will be a community which will be formed and they'll grow with that.
Correct.
So I just think today, because anybody can distribute so easily, if you have a cult of personality and a comedian, they will essentially become, linked to each other. So it's, I feel now it will become culturally even more complex because as Bharat comes online to the internet, you will have Tamil and all the other ones which are already there, like essays doing well. But these are the mass comics. You'll have very verticalized ones as well, which will only talk about relationships because that's their beat. Just like journalism, you develop a beat. I think comedians will also develop a beat.
So coming back to how it all started. So you, in an essence, defined cult comedy for the country when it came to MTV Bakra, right? There was a completely new culture that you kicked off. But today on television, niche comedy or cult comedy is not seen that much. Why do you think that's the case, that we are not able to replicate a Bakra today on television?
Yeah, I don't think Bakra was not intended to be funny. It was a social awareness campaign. We were trying to find mistakes in our society. It was probably
childhood ruin.
I think MTV, who was pushing this show called MTV Bakra, we were trying to do funny stuff for a lot of time. Yeah. Our funniest were, I think, Maria and Shanaz. They were really our top comedians. And then they suddenly they went left or right towards Chandigarh, Sector 27, and started shooting everything there. And was basically roadies and shows like that. Spitsvilla. So the change happened more from the channel side. We continued with our bad comedy, but in the meantime, internet grew. Right. So you had the Hindi film icons with the very big comedies, which will always stay. I don't think it'll ever go anywhere. These guys turned up, and then they, got a new audience with them, and they dropped us from MTV and moved on to roadies. So I'm in a circus now with a bearded lady and Suresh. Are you the bearded lady, Suresh?
I am.
I think also what happened is all the youngsters who used to earlier watch MTV Bakra, they stopped watching TV. They're all on the internet, they're all on their smartphones.
Or they grew up
all on this. Yeah. So I think that really is the problem, that they stopped watching TV. And that's why they went to things which probably went on the internet, on YouTube and things like that. A lot of prank channels are there on YouTube, which I see on Facebook and things like that. So I think that's where it also happened.
Absolutely. So again, talking about the medium getting smaller, what you could touch, पहले because of the censor board and all of that, you could not do much. But अभी जैसे medium छोटा हुआ है, क्या हम ज़्यादा कर पा रहे हैं?
मुझे लग रहा है कि पहले से बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा अभी हम लोग कर पा रहे हैं. मैंने कुछ देख रहा था कॉमिक्सतान, वो जो आई थिंक बहुत ब्रिलियंट तरीके से लोग कर रहे हैं ये काम जो है. देखिए अभी टीवी पे आप जो बता रहे थे अपना कपिल का, वो कितना पॉपुलर शो है, कितना उसका टीआरपी है. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो भी चेंज आया है वो बेटरमेंट के लिए आया है और लोग बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं.
Great. What do you think, Suresh? Like, traditionally being from the larger screen.
Before he joined MTV, I was a part of MTV. And Broacha got in through South Mumbai influence in MTV. That's a fact also.
marketing department.
But then we went on to do a show called The Great Indian Comedy Show on Star One.
Yeah.
With an ensemble cast of Vinay Pathak and Ranveer Shori, which to date, I think that was one of the really funniest shows, and where a lot of today's writers were there, famous comedians, stand-up comedians used to write for that show. In fact, I remember Tanmay and Ashish Chakia writing for that show at that time. The thinking was right, but the SNPs of the world at that time were so bad in our country that a lot of gags were automatically they were not shot because they could affect sensibilities of the people and all this stuff. So, and I still remember doing a gag on Rakesh Roshan, where I played Rakesh Roshan. And next day, I think after the telecast was there, he had called me to his office to
audition.
I got crazy for, by the way. But That was a moment where he said, "मैंने आपको कहीं देखा."
Superb.
But sadly, even today, I find every comedian who goes up on stage, there is a list of do's and don'ts, where I feel that fun factor is going out slowly. People are getting too sensitive because then you have to sanitize, as you said, make groups, the groups that are going to follow a particular type of comedy. I don't know. Mimicry also, you know, even Sunny Deol got really angry with somebody mimicking him and all said, with him, I don't want to mess with him because सचमुच का 2.5 किलो का आता है, झूठा नहीं है.
अभी MP भी है, हाँ.
So Rahul, you were quoted as saying the fact that a stand-up act has no message, it becomes funny. You know, that being said, today you have a great share of voice amongst the audience. You've hit millions of views on social media. Do you think after a point you should become accountable for the kind of message you're giving out through your stand-up acts?
According to me, comedy is about making people laugh, and comedians are not activists.
Right.
So the moment you mix, because there are activists who are activists. So
And some of them are funny.
I can never do comedy in which I'm trying to create a change or make a statement, because that's very unfair. That's very shallow of me. What have I done? I've done some engineering. I've done my MBA. Then I thought, I can make people laugh.
Yeah.
People who are activists who have been wanting to do this for their whole lives from the beginning. They've gone. They've seen people. They've been around people who have been affected. They feel for it way more. I think right now the unique comedy is a comedy without message. So I think which is how it started.
I agree to what he's exactly saying. It's just comedy, first of all. But also people should take it very, also what he said, today taking offense has become a national pastime, People come for a comedy show, you paid for a comedy ticket, you're coming for a comedy show, and there they're trying to find, come on, show me something where you can offend me, so that I go home with offense. But that even Woody Allen said the same, that if you don't offend somebody in a comedy room, you have not done your job properly. So I think it's a balance of both.
जो कह रहे हैं, I think it's very right, because देखिए आज शोले फिल्म जब बनी थी तो उसमें एक जो सीन था अमित जी का मंदिर में जाकर वो जो आज मुझे लगता है अगर इस तरह का कोई सीन we can see it will be a big problem.
बिल्कुल नहीं.
But Anish, you are absolutely correct. Coming to exactly your category of humor, you don't just appeal to a niche audience or a certain segment. आप जिस टाइप का कॉमेडी बनाते हो is for the entire country.
Yeah, it is very difficult कि आप इतनी एक large audience को जो है cater करना चाहते हैं.
आप जैसे like how they are saying they have to tread very carefully. आप जब mass level पे कॉमेडी बनाते हो, how do you do it? Is there a formula for it?
बहुत careful भी होना पड़ता है, and बहुत pressure ये होता है कि जिस तरह भी इन्होंने बताया कि भाई एक जोक जो है आपको अच्छा लगेगा, इनको अच्छा नहीं लगेगा, उसको बहुत अच्छा लगेगा, उसको बहुत खराब लगेगा. उसी तरह in the film also कि when you write तो आपको बहुत ध्यान रखना पड़ता है कि क्योंकि आप जो फिल्म बना रहे हैं बहुत बड़े बजट के साथ बना रहे हैं with lot of money involved, तो आपको और कॉन्शियस रहना पड़ता है कि ये फिल्म बहुत बड़ी हिट हो, और उस बड़ी हिट होने के लिए आपको बहुत एक स्मार्ट स्क्रिप्ट लिखनी होती है.
We have got a few phone calls. We've had 2 court cases.
I was thrown out of a comedy festival because they said they'll come and beat me up. Wow. Really? And I got death threats and I got... Death threats?
So Sameer, they say humor is one of the toughest genres to write for. Do you think the industry should invest more in cultivating better writers?
It's true for every genre. If your writing is bad, it doesn't matter whether it's humor, drama, tragedy. If your writing is bad, it will not. You can't.
Writing is the backbone for.
Yeah, no matter what you do. So I think that is the backbone.
Even in accounts. I mean, your writing just has to be spot on here. I totally agree. I get it.
You have segmented your audience like through Culture Machine. You've got various channels under it. And there is this, I think, segmentation for a logical, socially aware segment. There is a channel specifically for women. Like you've got a couple of channels for the South Indian market. Right? So the diversification is immense in your channels. Is there a criteria or parameter that you have when you choose a particular segment to enter into?
See, I basically looked at it very simply. I said, where is the internet going to go next? So it was going to be, first it was obviously English, just like computers come to people who, you assume that. And then it was going to be Hindi, because that's the larger addressable belt. After that, if you looked at internet statistics, clearly the Tamil, Telugu were the 2 largest languages, in technically Telugu and then Tamil. And then after that, Marathi. So you also look at, how well is that particular state doing in terms of how many people are coming online, and also do they have enough of spending power? Because there will be many states in India, without naming them, where there are many people online, but they don't have the spending power and they're not, viable for a large amount of the audiences. They might be viable to put them into theaters, but in cinema halls, but in our medium, you're either dependent on advertising or you're dependent on subscription. So, again, if it's subscription, are there enough people coming from that particular market?
Have you also noticed that depending on the geography in India, the sensibilities in terms of the capacity to take a joke is different. Is it different?
Changes. No, I think culturally everything is different. Yeah, I think there's certain. If you look at Gujarati comedy, inherently it's when you look at some of the product which comes out there, it can be a fairly risque in terms of some of the topics that they'll touch. If you look at Tamil, it's a lot more family friendly, but it'll be edgy in its sense in terms of some certain things it'll do about local pride, but it'll not kind of veer into double meaning jokes. It will be a little more cleaner. But these are, I think, cultural nuances about where they're brought up from. I think comedians self-select also because they also know that this is the kind of stuff which will alienate their audiences.
Correct. Rahul, it's interesting you asked the question about acceptance of humor because very recently the entire your set on DJ went down pretty bad, right? When you faced a lot of flack from a certain segment of that community because of a piece you did on that. So have you changed your approach towards writing content, or has it affected you in any ways now when you go up on stage?
Unfortunately, it has. Now, so when Suresh was telling, when Suresh was telling how you have to do what you find funny. And it almost felt like, I almost felt like the old lady in Bollywood movies, like, मेरा भी ऐसा सपना था लेकिन मैं कर नहीं पाऊंगी वो सब. I felt that way because that's how I started doing comedy. It's a very subconscious thing. There is a filter now before I do something. Because the backlash that I got, and there are reasons for that, because when you put up things online, it reaches people with different contexts. You walk 2 kilometers in Bombay, the context changes. So you can't really please everyone, and not everyone is wrong also in there.
So how did it end? They just stopped?
They just stopped up for a while. A lot of things happened. I was thrown out of a comedy festival because they said they'll come and beat me up.
Really?
And I got death threats, and I got...
Death threats? For a joke on DJs?
Video death threats, 2.0 death threat. And
2.0.
Yeah, a lot of things happen. Wow. But it is a part of my... So there is a filter in my...
But I have so much more respect. Death threats. Well done, Peter.
Thank you.
The only death threat he got was from his wife.
Yeah, twice.
In the morning today.
That was your wife.
Okay, so that brings me to you, Atul. You quit being a CEO of an IT company 2 years ago and have taken on stand-up comedy as a serious business. But seeing scenarios like this, people getting more culturally sensitive, how are they taking jokes, and it coming to the level of death threats. Do you think India is mature enough for individuals to take this up as a serious mainstream profession for themselves?
Oh, definitely. I think now, but being 10 years of stand-up comedy, our genre of English stand-up comedy genre, I think there is money in it.
Sure.
So getting straight into, there's money in corporate shows, we do private shows, we do writing opportunities.
Right.
Most of these film awards and all, there are comedians like us who write them. Right. We're getting a lot of writing opportunities, a lot of these web series which are coming. So I think, but it's a very hard work.
Yeah.
Comedy writing, as Anish said, is extremely difficult. So get into it in the long haul. Don't commit it's a cool job, fun hai, and there's only comedy is serious business in short. So yes.
Absolutely. A lot of people on this panel today are representing the video format of humor, right? You have very successfully been doing a podcast. Is it more difficult to do that category of humor, or why did you move on to that?
So I think for me, I've always been a very lazy person, and I don't want to lie about my laziness, and I want to find ways to work less.
Right.
And since politics is not the way to go, the only option is to find in the entertainment space less work, and podcast is actually less work. You can actually just sit there, no makeup, no touch-up, no retake, and just go on with it. So actually, it's a great medium. But it's a very intimate medium. It's more fun. You can actually be yourself.
Okay.
We can talk more freely.
But that's also interesting. These guys were talking about the viewers getting offended. You do a category of humor which is satire on politicians, also at times directly.
We try to aim for American politicians now to be safe.
But you've also done Indian politicians, right? Have you ever faced flack for it? Have you come under pressure?
We have got a few phone calls. We've had 2 court cases. I think luckily we did the show in Hindi for 6 months, and that was a little scary. Firstly, me in Hindi, and secondly, because then the reactions would be more dangerous. I think in English we're okay unless some chamcha is going out of their way to push the envelope. But we try not to get personal, honestly, whether you like it or not. We try not to. And not get into the personal space. Look at policies, look at issues, look at what's happening. If the World Cup is on, we're discussing cricket, and that's all there is to it. No one should take offense.
For the last question to the panel, where do you think the humor industry is headed in the next 5 or 10 years, going forward with the digital boom happening?
वक्त के साथ साथ जो है वो स्टाइल बदला है और एक तरीका बदला है, but I'm sure कि ये बहुत अच्छी होने वाला है.
Yeah.
आई एम अफ्रेड ऑफ ओनली दैट सिनेरियो इन फ्यूचर जहाँ पे हम थिएटर में बैठ के पिक्चर देख रहे हैं और साथ में लोगों के कमेंट्स भी आ रहे हैं.
Where do you think it's headed?
I think in terms of our stand-up comedy genre, I think it's going to get more regional.
Sure.
We have already seen, Tamil comedy, stand-up comedy. We'll see Marathi now. Marathi is already there. We'll see a lot of more regional players coming in. Also, I think in our stand-up comedy, we require more women comedians to come, and that voice is coming. If you see last 2 years to now, the number of women comedians who have come up, the number has just exponentially increased. And that is, I think that's the future. And at least for us, I think it's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
For them, it's just 10 years, very small industry, the smallest industry.
Right.
I think it's going to grow much further.
This industry is only going to grow.
Yeah.
I'm speaking specifically of the stand-up industry.
Yeah.
And it's grown so much in the last 2 years. Yeah. There are so many comedians right now. There used to be a time, 3 years back, I would know every stand-up comedian in India. You take a name, I would know that person, personally. Now, I won't, and people who have come after me also won't. It's becoming an industry. Okay? So there is going to be a 10% who's going to earn a lot, 90%. A lot of them are going to struggle.
Everything will remain fragmented,
Yeah.
except Anis Bhai's job is the one where he has to talk to everyone. That's the films will remain. I can't see that changing.
Diversity will not only come from gender, there's going to be cultural diversity, regional diversities. But what's going to happen because of this is there's going to be so many new perspectives.
Yeah.
That is only going to help the industry.
Thankfully, I can see an opportunity for Broacha and me. Since all CEOs are doing comedy now,
We can go back to marketing and sales.
Cyrus, what do you think? Where are we moving towards going forward in at least the humor industry?
I think we're okay. I think we'll manage, but we have to always you always have to be a little careful in India because we have the most number of lobbies who can get offended. There are people who can get offended that they got offended. I mean, it just goes on in layers. So I think that you have to be, these guys will have to keep their ears open and then a generation that follows.
Yeah.
I think Sir also has to write, he's already mentioned in a certain way, he has to also keep his eyes open because he's talking to so many people on a canvas.
Yeah.
But this is the India we have. But let's be optimistic and say this is what we have and do the best we can.
It's going to become bigger by becoming smaller.
Thanks, Samir.
Okay. The other part is I think it'll become harder to break through besides cinema, which will truly be sort of the massier
Mother of all ships.
Because there you have to appeal to everyone, and the way the internet works is it personalizes. The moment you personalize, it means that it's custom built for you. So you won't find the Kapil Sharma. It'll be harder. There'll be people like Zakir, etc., who can break through. But he may not appeal to people above 35.
Right.
So that sort of national comic will become harder and harder. And if they happen to come out of just sheer probability, they'll be very valuable. The more the phones, the more the fragmentation. That's the simple truth.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and coming here. Right.
As summed up by the panel, whether you're at the laughing end or the earning end, the future is very promising. It's safe to say that humor will continue to be exciting business. That was Brand Adda at KISKA Brand Bajega. Until then, Aditya Bhatt signing off.
KISKA Brand Bajega gives you a chance to visit our studios and interact with India's biggest celebrity brands live by answering a simple question. What was Cyrus Broacha's show called? A. Bakra, B. Splitsvilla, C. Roadies, D. Campus Diaries. Send your answers to us by commenting on our Instagram post and following our page at KISKA_brand_Bajega.